Hello everybody, my name is the Shy Hat, and this is HackerFrogs After School. So every week we look at some different beginners cybersecurity topics and we present it here in the form of a workshop. Today we're doing the 7th web app hacking workshop. This is on Burp Suite, which is a very powerful web app testing platform, which has a lot of different tools in it. And we're going to be introducing Burp Suite today through the Try Hack Me platform. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much to our good friend Poor Eyes, who's come in to say hello from SnowX Cone's chat. Nice to see you here. Okay, so let's go over what we learned in last week's HackerFrogs After School workshop. So we covered the following web app hacking concepts. We took a look at blind SQL injection, Boolean based. So last week we finished off our second of our two-part series on SQL injection. And in that part we took a look at Boolean based SQL injection, which is a type of blind SQL injection where the only output that is returned after SQL injection statement is whether or not the query returned true or false. So that's what we mean by Boolean, true or false. And we also took a look at blind SQL injection, which is time-based. So time-based SQL injection is a type of blind SQL injection where we give the database software an instruction to return a delayed response. Ilhan Idris, hey, nice to see you. Welcome. Okay, so we're just going over what we learned in last Monday's HackerFrogs workshop. So we're talking about blind SQL injection, time-based. And so we're given instruction to return a delayed response, and if the response is delayed, we know that the attack was successful. And we covered a little bit about out-of-band SQL injection. Out-of-band SQL injection is a type of SQL injection where the output of any SQL queries can be passed to services outside the web app's network. So in-band is inside the web app's network, and out-of-band means it involves technologies that are outside of the web app's network. All right, and the last thing we took a look at in last week's workshop was remediation. So remediation is how we defend against web app exploitation. And in this case, we talked about some different methods of remediation, but let's move on to the subject of today's workshop. And today's workshop, we're taking a look at Burp Suite, which is an industry standard app used for web app security testing. Ilhan Idris, I hope, do you have Burp Suite installed on your own computer, or are you going to... Actually, it doesn't really matter, because we can also use the TryHackMe attack box to access the system on today's workshop, and that already has Burp Suite installed. Poor Eyes asked, did you make Burp Suite? No. I did not create Burp Suite. I just teach people how to use it. But Poor Eyes, if you want to take part in today's workshop, I recommend you make an account over at tryhackme.com. You don't need to pay any money or anything. Tryhackme.com. That's the link. But Burp Suite is basically the program to use whenever you're doing web app security testing. It lets you do a lot of different tests, and if you find any vulnerabilities, you can exploit web applications in many different ways using Burp Suite. So let's learn more with TryHackMe. So I've got a URL for the TryHackMe room that we're going to be making use of in today's workshop. Let's go over here, and I'll copy that URL to the chat. Poor Eyes, yeah, if you want to just watch and participate, or maybe go through it later, that's perfectly fine. But this is the room we're dealing with, Burp Suite, the basics. And it's an introduction to using Burp Suite for web application testing. So Burp Suite is a very complex program, so we're going to try to go over the basics of using the program in a step-by-step manner. So I don't have my mouse highlighter activated right now, so I'm just going to do that. Okay, great. All right, so let's go over... So introduction. So this TryHackMe room goes over the basics of Burp Suite, which is a web app testing framework used by nearly every professional working in the web app security testing industry. Which is to say that if you work as a web app security tester, you will be using Burp Suite, because they basically they do use other programs, but they're used to complement Burp Suite and not to replace it. So let's go over the contents of the room over here. So we're going to go through a thorough introduction to Burp Suite, a comprehensive overview of various tools available within the framework, detailed guidance on the process of installing Burp Suite on your system, and navigating and configuring Burp Suite. So we're not going to be going over all the tools today, but we'll be getting a little bit of an introduction to what the UI looks like. So we answer the questions below. Let us start, and just click on complete, and we're done with that one. Okay, then we move on to task 2. So Ilhan Idris, how have you been doing these days? I feel like I haven't seen you in a little bit. Have you been doing a lot of self-learning? Have you been teaching yourself how to about different web app security topics, or learning about C? I like to know what fun you've been getting up to. Okay. So this is task 2. What is Burp Suite? So Burp Suite captures enables the modification of web traffic between the browser and the server. And it includes the following 5 tools for web app testing. So you're not necessarily going to be learning how to use these tools in today's workshop, but just so you know, these are the 5 tools, the 5 major tools that Burp Suite offers. So there's Burp Proxy, and the Burp Proxy server is what enables web traffic to be captured and recorded. It sits between the browser and the server, enabling traffic capture. Ilhan says, studying computer science. In fact, new semester starts next week. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're still in university and attending classes. I hope you get a lot out of your studies and your courses. Okay, so number 1 is the Burp Proxy. And that's what enables all the other magic to take place. Prize asked, Burp Proxy server is hosted locally? Yes, it is hosted locally. Burp actually gives you 2 options. You can either configure a proxy that is attached to the Burp Suite program, or you can use Burp's own web browser, which is by default connected to the Burp proxy. So number 2 is the Burp Spider. The Burp Spider is a tool which acts as a web app indexing robot, which maps out different endpoints inside a target web app. So it's similar to tools in the same role that include Derb, GoBuster, and FerrixBuster. So the Burp Spider is basically a web app directory buster, which tries out a lot of different directory endpoints according to its word lists. And the Burp word lists are pretty good as far as I've observed. So the Burp Spider is a very useful tool, but unfortunately it's not really available to people using the free version. So next is the Burp Intruder. Burp Intruder is a tool that can be used for different web brute forcing attacks with modular payloads and word lists. So other tools that are similar to the Burp Intruder are Hydra, WFuzz, FFUF, and other tools like that. So this allows you to brute force web logins, among other things. So the Burp Scanner is the next tool that we're covering, and it's an automated web app vulnerability scanner, which tests all endpoints found in the web app for known vulnerabilities. So this basically takes each of the endpoints and it conducts a bunch of tests on them to determine whether or not they're vulnerable to specific web app exploits. So this is one of the big ticket selling points for Burp Suite, the Professional Edition. So it is not available on the free edition, but similar tools to the Burp Scanner include Nikto, OpenVAS, and Zap. And the last major tool in the Burp Suite arsenal is the Burp Repeater. The Burp Repeater is a tool which allows for manual web app web request manipulation and testing. So basically, the Burp Repeater allows you to replay web requests, and each time you replay the web request, you can modify values and see whether or not that garners a different response from the web app. It's basically one of the best reasons to use Burp Suite. So similar tools to the Burp Repeater include Zap, Postman, and Charles Proxy. Okay, so we're going to go back to the web page over here. So there's a lot of different. There's also good information on the TryHackMe task descriptions over here. So if you have time, I definitely recommend you go back and take a look at the information inside of the task descriptions over here. But we have to answer the questions below. Which edition of Burp Suite runs on a server and provides constant scanning for target web apps? So basically, there are 3 different versions of Burp Suite. There's Burp Suite Community Edition, which is the free which is the free version which has which is nerfed capabilities. There is the Burp Suite Pro, which is the paid version for web app security testers, and there's the Enterprise Edition, which they cover over here in the task, and that is basically a static scanning system which you can set which you can set up to look over a web app, and it will report any vulnerabilities it finds during its constant scanning. So the answer here is it's Burp Suite Enterprise. Okay, and the second question is, Burp Suite is frequently used when attacking web applications and something applications. So what are we talking about here? So it's web applications, and so we can basically look for the word application. So web applications, and what is the hint? Fill in the blank. Okay, well, that doesn't help very much. So Burp Suite is frequently used when attacking web applications, and that's it. That is a great hint. But let's see. So web applications. So what else aside from web applications could it be? Sakofa7 says lol. Well, I'm glad you find it funny. I guess I can laugh because what else could we be? So okay, it says web applications, and let's just skip this question for right now. We'll come back to it later. But if you guys, if anybody in chat has the answer to this particular question, go ahead and volunteer it. Okay, so we're talking about the features of the Burp Community Edition. Manual applications? Well, it's worth a shot. No, not that one. All right, so we're talking about the features of Burp Community Edition. So let's go back to the presentation. So we're talking about the free version and the paid version. So basically, the Burp Community Edition it's not bad, but there are a lot of really cool features in the Pro Edition that makes you want to buy it, which is the company's intended goal. So Burp Community includes the Burp Proxy, which allows capturing and modification of web content, and it's quite usable in the Community Edition. Ilhan Idris says mobile. Oh, you can use it for testing mobile apps. That's I actually didn't think about that, but thank you for the answer. Let's go fill it in right now. Thank you very much, Ilhan Idris. Okay, so Burp Proxy is completely usable in Community Edition, which is good. The Burp Repeater, which allows modifications and resetting of specific web requests, is basically untouched in Community Edition. So seeing as this is a major feature of Burp Suite, this is a great thing. Burp Intruder, which allows brute force attacks of web applications, is severely rate limited in Community Edition, but it can be used for demonstration purposes. So basically, whenever you use the Burp Intruder to do brute forcing attacks, the rate at which you send the requests to the web application is it slows down a lot. Maybe a dozen or so requests in, it slows down to a crawl. And if you're trying to send more than a couple of dozen payloads by brute forcing, it's basically it's basically, don't do it. Okay, so that's Burp Intruder. So Burp Decoder, which allows for encoding and decoding of data into various formats, such as URL, base64, binary, and more. So it's basically Burp Decoder allows you to take different strings and modify them by encoding them or decoding them from different formats. This is something you can do with a lot of different tools, but it's good that you're able to access it from Burp Suite, because it means that you don't have to really leave the program in order to do these things. So, and there's Burp Comparer, which allows for word or byte level comparison between different pieces of data. So this is, so the Burp Comparer is basically letting you see the difference between two different pieces of data, to spot the differences between the two. It's useful in certain cases, but it's not something I use very often. And the Burp Sequencer, which provides analysis of randomly generated data, such as session tokens, for flaws in its random generation. So basically, the Burp Sequencer is able to get a lot of different tokens that are generated by a web app and analyze them for potential flaws in its random generation. If there are flaws in the random generation, which basically means if it's predictable, then you can use those flaws to conduct attacks. So that is task 3 over there. So we're going to be starting up Burp Suite in just a little bit, but we just have to go through a few more questions before that. So the question here is, which Burp Suite feature allows us to intercept requests between ourselves and the target? So this right here is, the answer is the Burp Proxy. So the Burp Proxy allows you to intercept requests and log them. And it's basically one of the biggest reasons to use Burp Suite. So the answer here is Proxy. And the last question here is, which Burp tool would we use to brute force a login form? So if you remember from what I was talking about, the tool that we would use to brute force a login form is the Burp Intruder. So the answer here is Intruder. So the Intruder tool is what we use to perform brute force attacks, but unfortunately in the Community Edition it's been severely rate limited. Okay, let's move on to part 4. So part 4 we don't really need to deal too much with. We're just talking about installation of Burp Suite. So what I recommend while learning Burp Suite, it's recommended to access it via virtual machines, otherwise known as VMs, such as Try Hack Me Attack Box, which is the VM which we can access for free on the Try Hack Me website, or via the Kali Linux VM. So you can also install Kali Linux as your main operating system, but there's no real reason to do so unless you just want to be a cool person who installs cybersecurity Linux distributions on bare metal. So, but otherwise, I would recommend either using somebody else's VM or your own VM. Who here has used Kali Linux before? If you used Kali Linux before, please type in Kali and then some smiley faces, or maybe some frogs. Okay. So even so, manual installation, download and installation of Burp Suite is available for all major operating systems from the Portswigger Company website. So that's it for this section. So basically, we're in this section we're told how we can access Burp Suite from different OS operating systems, but we really don't need to worry too much about this, and we just click the complete button to complete this. Okay, so we move on to the dashboard. So you may use the pre-installed Burp Suite Community Edition in our attack box. To launch the attack box, click on Start Attack Box at the top of this page. So let's start up the attack box right now. So if you are logged into Try Hack Me, you can go up to the top of the web page here, and you can click on Start Attack Box. So just click on that, and this may or may not split your web browser pane into two, with the left-hand side being the Try Hack Me webpage, and the right-hand side being the Attack Box window right here. So we just need to wait for a little bit for this to initialize. But while we're waiting for this to initialize, let's take a look at one more thing. So if you don't see that this window has opened up over here, at the top of the Try Hack Me website, there'll be a button over here that says Show Split View, and you'll want to click on that in order to have this window pop up. Alright, so while we're waiting for this, let's go over what we're going to be taking a look at in the dashboard. So we're talking about the Burp Suite dashboard. So this is what you see when you start up Burp Suite, and it's made up of 4 different quadrants over here. But unfortunately, in the Community Edition, we don't have to pay attention to very much over here, because most of the information here is exclusive to the Pro version. So the first quadrant over here is the task window, and this keeps track of visited web pages in Community Edition, but in Pro Edition, it records scans and other tasks. So the dashboard over here is going to keep track of the different websites that you visited, and then the next quadrant is the event log window, which shows actions taken by the program for later analysis. So event log is basically the actions you've taken inside of Burp Suite, and most of the time you don't have to pay too much attention to this. The next quadrant is the issue activity window, which is not relevant in Community Edition, but it displays vulnerabilities identified in the project scope in the Pro Edition. So basically, you will see if you're using the Pro Edition, it'll identify any vulnerabilities that it's found in your project. For example, it might find header injection over here or cross-site scripting, and it'll show you which web page it found it in and exactly which endpoint it was. But for the Community Edition, it doesn't show any of that. So, and the last section over here is another Pro Edition only quadrant, and this is the advisory window. So the advisory window provides detailed information about identified vulnerabilities. So if you were to go back here and click on one of these in the issue activity window, it would blow up over here, and it would give you more information about that particular vulnerability. But then again, this it's not something we have to worry about in Community Edition, because it's only in Pro Edition. And that's it for Task 5. So let's go back to the Try Hack Me webpage, and I see that we're initializing here. So basically, this is the attack box, and the attack box is a virtual machine with a bunch of different cybersecurity testing tools installed on it, and so it's very useful for testing out the security of different networks and web apps. But after we've opened this up, we want to put it in its own web browser tab. So we need to go down here to the middle of the page, and there's this button here labeled View in Full Screen. So we can click on that, and it's going to put the virtual machine in its own browser tab. And we go back to the Try Hack Me webpage, and we can close out the attack box in the web page here, which we can do with this button over here labeled Exit Split View. It's at the bottom, and it's located slightly to the right of the View in Full Screen button here. So just click on that, and then we'll get our full screen. Poor Eyes asks, are you an expert Burp Suite user? I used to use Burp Suite quite a bit when I was doing web app security testing as a job, but I wouldn't call myself an expert. I do know my way around it as far as the basics are concerned, there are quite a few tools in Burp Suite that I didn't get to take much advantage of while I was doing my job, but it's very complex, and if you're able to navigate it quite well, then that's a great benefit to you when you're doing web app testing. Okay, so task 5. So all we need to do here is answer what menu provides information about the actions performed by Burp Suite, such as starting the proxy and details about connections made through Burp. So I think this is the event log window, and that is the correct answer. Okay, so we're moving on to navigation. So before we go through this, let's play around a little bit with Burp Suite. So inside the attack box here, there's a big shortcut button which leads to Burp Suite Community Edition, located just over here. So just click on that, and that's going to start up Burp Suite. So we just need to wait a little bit. So Burp Suite is a pretty hefty program, and you'll find that if your computer system is not sufficiently powerful, then Burp Suite is going to slow down your computer a lot. So once you've opened up Burp Suite, you're going to want to click on Next, and then you're going to want to click on the yellow Start Burp button right here. Okay, so right away you're going to see that an update is ready to install. We can just ignore that, so just X off of it. Okay, and now we see that the different windows we covered in the last task. So this is the task window, the issue activity window, the event log, and the advisory window over here. So basically you don't need to pay very much attention to this because most of the information here is going to be stuff that is only important if we're using the Pro Edition. So let's go back to the presentation over here, and we're talking about navigation. So navigating inside of Burp Suite mostly comes down to selecting the desired tab on the navigation bar. So target, proxy, intruder, etc. So let's go back to to our actual Burp program over here. So we can see the main tools all lined up over here, and they all have their own separate tab. So basically, we're mostly going to be using the proxy tab and the repeater tab, and sometimes we'll use the intruder tab. So inside of each of these tabs, we might see some sub-tabs. So under proxy, we see intercept, HTTP history, WebSockets history, proxy settings. Okay, so let's go back. So within a specific tab, you can navigate to sub-tabs below the main tab bar. So under proxy, these ones over here. That's basically all you need to know about navigating among the major sections of Burp Suite. So for example, in the proxy tab, there are intercept, HTTP history, WebSockets history, etc. So 7, options. So this is associated with task 7, and it's talking about Burp Suite, the settings page. So settings can be accessed from the settings button on the top right corner of the UI. So after all the other tabs over here, there's going to be the settings tab. So you can see, just like over here, on the very right hand side of the top bar over here, there's the settings tab. And that's going to open up settings. And there are 2 types of settings inside of Burp Suite. There's going to be the user or global settings, and there's going to be project settings. So you can click on either of these buttons to see the respective settings for those categories. So most of the time, we're going to be just working inside of the user global settings over here, and there's a bunch of other tabs we can access from here. All right, I think that's all there is to know about that. So once the settings page is open, you can access user settings or project settings from the respective tabs. These buttons over here. Okay, and let's finish that section inside of, so it's task 6. Let's answer these questions. So another thing that they talk about here is that we can detach these tabs in case we want to deal with them in their own windows. So that is useful if you want to get into some custom UI stuff. And there are also keyboard shortcuts for accessing the various tools. So in case you wanted to go to the repeater or go to the intruder or go to the proxy, you can use these keyboard shortcuts to do so. So the question here is, which tab will Control plus Shift plus P to switch us into? So you see here that it's the proxy tab. Okay, and under options, so this basically tells you about accessing the user and project settings inside of Burp Suite. In which category can you find reference to a cookie jar? So inside of this section here, you can also search the settings. So if there's a certain term that you want to look for, you can go up to the top bar and search for it. Let's try that out. So in which category can you find reference to a cookie jar inside of Burp Suite in the settings page? You can type in cookie jar. So it looks like this is in the configuration library. So let's go answer this question. Which category can you find reference to a cookie jar? So let's go all. So cookie jar, this is a project setting. This is project setting. I think that's the answer. Nope. Category, huh? Is this under sessions or under cookie jar? Let's try both. Okay, I was looking for sessions. So in which base category can you find the updates subcategory, which controls the Burp Suite update behavior? Okay, so we're looking for updates. So it looks like it might be Suite. Okay. And what is the name of the subcategory which allows you to change the key bindings for shortcuts in Burp Suite? I think the keyword we're looking for is key bindings. Or maybe we're looking for shortcut. Oh, it looks like hotkeys. Hotkeys? Let's try hotkeys. Okay. And the last question is, if we have uploaded client-side TLS certificates, can we override these on a per project basis, yay or nay? So if we upload client-side TLS certificates, well, this answer should be yes. Okay. So the next task is task 8, Introduction to Burp Proxy. So what are we looking at here? So the Burp Proxy allows web traffic to be recorded, reviewed, and replayed. One thing to take note of is the intercept is on button. So inside of proxy intercept, there's going to be this button that says intercept is on or intercept is off. So when intercept is on, each web request has to be manually allowed or dropped before the next can be sent. So there are circumstances where we want intercept on, but in most cases we do not want this, and we should ensure that the intercept is on button is toggled off. So let's do that right now. So inside of here, we'll get out of settings, and under proxy intercept, intercept is on. We definitely want to toggle that so that intercept is off. Otherwise, whenever we start doing some browsing inside of our web browser, it's going to make us manually accept or drop each one of our requests, which is very, very tedious. Okay, so we go back. So the next section is called connecting through the proxy. So let's go back here. Click on me to proceed to the next task. Okay, so before we move on, let's do a little bit of exploration of the proxy tab right here. So inside of the Burp proxy, there are these tabs right here. There's the intercept tab, which we just looked at, and then there's beside the intercept tab is the HTTP history tab, which is empty right now, but this is going to show a log of each web request that we've sent through the web browser, and we can look up each one of these web requests after we've recorded them. So next to that is WebSockets history. So in addition to HTTP, there are WebSockets, which are a slightly different technology, but if the web app you're using uses WebSockets, then you would be able to see the WebSocket requests over here. And there's the proxy settings. So we can configure the proxy that we're using for Burp Suite in this page right here, but we don't need to worry about that for right now. So let's go back to the to task number 9 over here, which is labeled connecting through the proxy, otherwise known as Foxy proxy. So the old way of setting up Burp Suite was that we had to configure a proxy that sits between the browser and the web servers to collect all the information, and we would do this by setting up like an extension in our regular web browser. But these days we don't need to do this. But let's do this manually just to say we did it. So there's also this option right here to start the vulnerable web application, which is associated with this room. So let's do that. So click on the under task 9, click on the green start machine button, and that's going to become available in just a minute or so. But let's go back to our attack box and minimize Burp Suite, and then we can open up our regular attack box web browser. So the attack box web browser can be accessed by this button right here. So Firefox web browser. There's another shortcut button over here, but most of the time you can use either one of these to open up a web browser. So right now this web browser is not connected to Burp Suite, but we can use a web browser extension to connect the web browser to Burp Suite, and that button can be accessed over here inside of the attack box web browser. So click on that, and this is a proxy web browser extension called Foxy proxy. So it's pretty easy to use after you've set it up. You just need to click on this button so that and that makes it so that the web browser is attached to Burp Suite. So we can click on this, and then you'll see that the button over here has changed to a different color, and that means that this web browser right here is attached to Burp Suite. So by now our vulnerable web server should be spun up, but I just need to wait a few. Okay, so it's over here, and it's going to show a target IP address. So on the TryHackMe network, your attack box can access the vulnerable machine over here. So you can just click on this button right here to copy the IP address. And afterwards, inside of your attack box web browser, make sure that your Foxy proxy is on and it's set to burp. And then you can, inside of the web browser, you can navigate to the IP address. So just navigate to this, and this will lead to Bastion hosting over here, which is a vulnerable web app website. Okay, so let's go back to TryHackMe and finish off this section. So this is just talking about where you can download the Foxy proxy web extension. So in most cases, this is the easiest way to set up a proxy for your web browser to use Burp Suite. But these days you don't really need to do it because you can just use the built-in Burp Suite browser instead, and that's the preferable way to do it. So there's a bunch of information here, and you just need to click on this to complete the task. And the next section is Task 10, Sitemap and Issue Definitions. Okay, so let's go to the presentation over here. So the Burp Target tab allows us to define which IP addresses and or URLs are considered in scope for web traffic proxy and capture. So if you don't set a scope for which IP addresses or URLs that Burp Suite is going to stay confined to, then the number of web requests that are recorded by Burp Suite is going to be quite large, because it basically there's a lot of traffic that goes through web browsers in the background, and you definitely don't want to record any more web traffic than you absolutely need to. So under traffic and sitemap, you can see that we can set the scope to our particular IP address. So let's try that out right now. So we can go to the TryHackMe website and then copy our target IP address, and then we can go to our Burp Suite, which we can access from here, and we can go to the Target tab. So inside the Target tab, we said that we've already collected information from some different websites that are not our target website, and the amount of stuff that's going to keep on piling up that is not our target website is just going to grow. So we definitely want to restrict our scope to just our target website. So what you can do is you can right click on this, and you can select Add to Scope, and then after that, it's going to ask you if you want to stop sending out of scope items to the history or other burp tools. And most of the time you want to answer yes. So that means that we're not going to record any more traffic from anything that is not our target website right here. All right, so I think that's all for this section. So let's answer the question over here. So the challenge over here is to take a look on the site over here. We're going to be using this a lot throughout the module. Visit every other page that is linked on the home page. Then check your sitemap. One endpoint should stand out as being very unusual. Okay, so let's go over to the attack box. So inside of target sitemap, if we open up this tab with our target URL, their target IP address, you can see that it records all the endpoints that it found when we were navigating to the page. So this is not web spidering. It's not doing directory busting. It's basically just taking a look at the links that are provided on the pages that we visit over here. So we can see all these different ones, and the ones that are in gray are ones that we haven't visited ourselves, but were referenced in links. So let's go over to our web browser in the attack box, and let's start clicking on links. So we see these different links right here. Let's click on each one of these to navigate to each one of these. So home, and then about, and then over to contact, and then to support, and then to products. Okay, so after that, so then check your sitemap. One endpoint should stand out as being very unusual. So we go over to and close out our, minimize our browser and go to Burp Suite Community Edition. And then we go to the endpoints. So everything here is all usual, all normal stuff, but there's one unusual endpoint over here. So after we click on this, it'll tell us what the request was to access this page, and then the response that was sent in return. In this case, there's a flag in the response, so we can copy it and provide that as the answer for the question. Okay, so copy this, and then provide it as the answer to the question over here. And click submit. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the Burp Suite browser. So this is basically the alternative to setting up the Foxy proxy on your regular web browser. So let's go over to and minimize our Burp Suite, and then go over to our web browser, and let's click on the Foxy proxy, and then click on disable. Okay, now the Foxy proxy is disabled, and I'm going to show you how to open up the native Burp web browser. So instead of Burp Suite, we want to go to proxy and then intercept. So proxy, intercept, and then you can open up Burp's web browser. This button right here, or this button right here. So it says here that your OS does not support Burp's browser running with this sandbox enabled. So this is a security setting right here that we need to disable before we can use Burp's browser. We need to go to Setting, Burp's browser, allow Burp's browser to run without a sandbox. So we click on OK, and then we go to the settings page. So the settings page can be accessed from this button right here. So in the Burp's browser section, under browser running, we need to check this box right here, allow Burp's browser to run without a sandbox. So click on that, and then we can exit out of the settings page. And then we can click on open browser. So proxy, intercept, open browser. So this is going to take a while because the Burp browser is actually pretty resource intensive. Okay, so this is the Burp browser. It's a Chromium browser. So and it's labeled Portswigger Chromium. So basically anything that you access within the Burp browser right here is going to be recorded by Burp Suite. So let's so now that we've opened that, let's take a look at the presentation. So using the Burp Suite browser to proxy web traffic is the more convenient option over using regular web browser proxies. It can be accessed under the proxy tab, then the intercept sub-tab, then the open browser button. In the attack box, you'll have to go into settings, Burp browser, browser running, allow Burp's browser to run without a sandbox before we can use it. Okay, and let's finish off the section in the web page. So task 11, click on the to proceed to the next task. Click on complete. So we might run over we might go a little long in today's workshop, but I hope you can stick around till the end. I'm guessing that it's probably going to take another 15 minutes or so to finish off this, this room. All right, so the next section is called scoping and targeting. In most cases, we want to set a scope for our testing and exclude all the traffic that is outside the URL IP address of the scope. This is basically the same thing that we're discussing earlier under the target tab. We can manually set a scope by using the target scope, include in scope, add button. Okay, so let's point out where we access this. So to do this manually, we would go to target, and then we would go to scope settings. So target and then scope settings. And then under scope, target scope, we could manually add URLs or IP addresses by clicking on the add. And here you would add your URL or your IP address. Okay. So I think that's that section done. So we'll go back to the Track Me page. And then click on the button to complete the section. Okay, next is proxying HTTPS. So this is the other reason we want to use the Burp browser instead of setting up our own proxy, because let's take a look at the presentation. So one reason why it's preferable to use Burp's browser to proxy web traffic is because it avoids some setup steps, such as downloading and configuring HTTPS certificates. So normally when you're setting up the Burp proxy, you have to download a certificate from Portswigger and then do some different setup steps inside of your own browser to use the certificate file, which is kind of a pain in the butt. But especially if you have to do it over and over again, and you can circumvent all this by just using Burp's browser to proxy instead of setting up your own proxy. So this leads us to the final section before the conclusion, which is the example attack that we're going to be doing inside of Burp Suite. So let's go to the Track Me webpage to complete this section. So this is basically covering all the steps that you would have to do in order to set up your browser with the proxy's certificate over here. So if you wanted to try it out yourself, please take a look at this section over here. It explains in detail how to do it, but in most cases you don't have to worry about it. So just click on complete. And we're over at the last section, which is called example attack. So example attack. So having looked at how to set up and configure a proxy, let's go to a simplified real-world example. We will start by taking a look at support form at the HTTP, so your IP address /ticket. So this is not going to be the same IP address that you have, because all the IP addresses that are created are different. But it's going to be at the ticket endpoint over here. So what you might want to do is to highlight this inside of your web page and to copy it, and then inside of the attack box with your Burp's browser, paste in the address and then navigate to the page. So right here, this is a submission form, and you'll find that that this is actually vulnerable to a type of attack called XSS, cross-site scripting. So cross-site scripting sounds kind of complex, but it's basically JavaScript injection. So previously we talked about SQL injection, and we talked about OS command injection, but this is another type of injection that is JavaScript based, and it's called XSS, cross-site scripting. So we can, so right over here, we're going to demonstrate how to do an example cross-site scripting attack. So inside of here, you can basically do test. Oh, it's an email, so you have to do test@test.com. And then a query over here, you can just do test. And normally what we would do is we would click on this to submit the query, but right now what we're going to do is we're going to intercept the request, because if we were to try to do cross-site scripting on this page manually, it has certain protections in place. So let me explain. So on the Try Hack Me page, it says we're going to be using this cross-site scripting attack payload right here. So script alert successful XSS unscript. So this is basically two script tags and then alert, which is a function which displays a message. So if we're able to execute this this cross-site scripting attack, we could prove that this application is vulnerable to cross-site scripting. So if we were to try to copy this and just paste it into the web app, so copy this and try to paste it into the web app, they've got code to delete the payload as soon as you type it in. So I can paste this in, it just keeps on being deleted. So what we're going to do is we're going to intercept this, we're going to make use of the intercept tool functionality that we turned off at the beginning of turning on Burp Suite, because this is where it would come in. So let's just test@test.com, and then inside of Burp Suite, we would go to proxy, intercept, and then we would click on intercept is off to turn it on. So turn on intercept, and then we would minimize this. And then here we would click on submit query. So basically, this is going to go through Burp Suite, and it's going to intercept this request and not let it through until we tell it that it can go through. So submit query, and then we'll see that inside of Burp Suite, under proxy intercept, it says it shows us the thing that we're trying to send through over here. So this is a request to the this is a post request to the ticket endpoint over here, and under the data we can manually inject the cross-site scripting payload right here. So we just have to make sure that we have that copied. So make sure we have this copied, and then copy it, and then in the attack box, so the value for email right here, we're going to paste in the cross-site scripting payload. Okay, so now that we've adjusted this, we should be able to forward this. So we've intercepted the request, and then we modified the content of the request, which means we were able to bypass the filter. So the filter was deleting our payload in real time, but because we sent it through, we intercepted it with Burp Suite, we could get around that particular cross-site scripting filter. So we forward it, and then we can go back to our Burp Suite browser. Sorry, we don't go back to our Burp Suite browser. First we click on intercept is on and toggle it back to off. And then inside of our Burp Suite browser, we see the cross-site scripting payload execute over here. And we see the alert window that says successful XSS. So we managed to bypass the filter with Burp Suite and perform a cross-site scripting attack. And that's the final exercise for this room. Okay, so that is basically the end of this room. We can just click on complete, and then we can click on conclusion, and we can complete that as well. So basically, in the conclusion, it says that now that we've finished this, we could go over to the Burp Suite repeater module, and we're going to be doing this one next week. So Burp Suite repeater is the other major tool which is available in Burp Suite Community Edition, and it's very useful for doing web app security testing, and we're going to be covering this next week. Okay, so if you're here from Black Girls Hack, I have a handy dandy survey for you to fill out at the following address. And if you could fill it out for me and tell them that I did a good job, that would really help me out. Ilhan just says, my classes start early in the morning next week, so I might not be able to join your upcoming workshop. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but yeah, you have to go to your classes. If you want to, you can definitely catch the VOD after the workshop is over. Otherwise, you can go to you can come to the extra credit classes, and we're going to be going over some extra credit exercises then. Okay, so what do we do in today's workshop? So Burp Suite is the industry standard software framework for testing web apps. It includes many different tools, but the Burp tool that enables the rest of the framework is... Wait, is this actually a school? Are you talking about Ilhan's? Ilhan is attending university in his country, and that's what he's talking about. But as far as my program is concerned, this isn't an official school, but it's just a program that I do to teach beginner cybersecurity skills. But what we're talking about, the Burp proxy. So the Burp proxy server is what enables web traffic to be captured and recorded. It sits between the browser and the server, enabling traffic capture. So what's next? In the next HackerFrogs After School Web App Hacking Workshop, we'll continue to learn about Burp Suite, more specifically the Burp Repeater tool. But if we're looking for more materials on this workshop's topics, this was originally a video, and we would see the video's description for supplemental documents and exercises. But what I want everybody to know is that HackerFrogs has a Reddit associated with it, and in the HackerFrogs Reddit, there is a streaming schedule over here, and we're going to be doing an extra stream, which is HackerFrogs Extra Credit. And in that stream, we're going to be using Burp Suite to complete some challenges. Maybe we're going to be doing over-the-wire Natas challenges, or maybe we might be doing some other challenges. But we're going to be practicing using Burp Suite to solve some other simple web app challenges. And that's going to be on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I think our good friend Snowcones is still streaming. So if she is, we're going to throw the viewers back to her channel. She does co-working and she does coding, and she's a good streaming friend of mine. And if you go to her stream, tell her that the Shy Hat sent you, and it would be much appreciated. But until the Wednesday stream, everybody have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.